Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is going to be a eyebrow tutorial on how I currently fill in my eyebrows. So if you guys are interested on how I fill in my brows, then keep on watching. So recently I have been using Morphe's Brow Wiz, which is a traditional brow wiz that has like the twist top pencil at one end and then a spoolie on the other side. So the color that I'm using for this Morphe pencil is in the shade Java, which is a dark brown, almost to blackish color. So yeah, I've been using that pretty recently. So first things first, I'm going to comb out my brows using the spoolie, brushing all of my hairs up in an upward motion to get all the hairs going in one direction. So I'm going to be starting with my Morphe pencil by drawing a line at the bottom of my brow. And I'm just doing little small strokes. I'm not dragging it completely smoothly under my brow. I'm kind of doing small little strokes to complete one line, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the top of my brow, just dragging it with little small strokes and following my natural eyebrow shape. So once I've completed my two lines, I then start to feather in and fill in my own brow. And I'm just taking the pencil and then just like softly drawing some feather strokes, not going too harsh. I'm really kind of taking my time with filling in my brow just so I can get that hairy look and get that faded look as well. So now I'm just going to repeat the same steps that I did on my first brow, and I'm just going to do the same on my second brow. So I'm just taking my pencil and gradually drawing a line at the bottom of my brow, and then drawing a line at the top of my brow, and then connecting the two at the end. So when I have both of the lines created, I do small feathered strokes to fill in my brow, just like I was doing the first brow. So I'm just taking my time with filling them in, and I'm doing small feathered hairy strokes to fill it in and gradually make it darker at the end of my brow. So that's basically how I get my faded effect. At the tip of my brow is where it's going to be the darkest, but in the middle is where it's going to be medium to dark, but I do leave the top of my brow or the inner part of my brow blank until I fade it in with the spoolie. Once I start working my way into the inner part of my brow, I then start to draw vertical lines to mimic hair. So I start going upwards rather than sidewards with my pencil, just to give it that gradient and natural hairy effect. So as I get closer into my brow, now that I have both of my brows on, I usually start with the second brow as to when I begin to fade it in. So now I'm just going even lighter with the hair strokes, the vertical hair strokes, to just fade in my brows. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that on the other brow as well. And I just kind of go back and forth in between like how faded in I want the brow to look. And then sometimes I kind of swipe my finger across the faded in part just so it's not so harsh. So yeah, I'm just going to go back and forth in between brows and try to fade them in and make them look pretty similar. So now I'm just using my finger to perfect my brows. So I'm just using my finger to get any extra eyeliner or any mess ups that I have for my brows, and just wipe them away. And then I just go back with my spoolie to fade my brows in even more. And then yeah, I kind of even take my spoolie throughout my entire brow to make sure that everything is evenly blended out. Okay, so now that we have our brows on, we're going to go ahead and conceal them. So what I use to conceal the bottom of my brows is the ColourPop No Filter Concealer. And this is in the shade 26, I believe. So I'm just going to be using the tip of the brush of that concealer and then applying it on a Morphe brush. I'm not sure exactly what number the Morphe brush is, but it's just one of those square top Morphe brushes. So I like to use this type of Morphe brush because it gives you a very precise straight line. So I'm just going to be rubbing it on the tip of the concealer brush. So this is when you want to concentrate the absolute most with concealing the bottom of your brow. So I really take my time on this part. So I'm just getting the brush with the concealer on it and then drawing small strokes at the bottom of my brow and then dragging it down with the brush. So you want to make sure that you're very slow at this part and that you're taking your time and that you're really precise with it. So with the concealer that I have left on the brush, I just kind of drag it down onto my eyelid and then just go back and forth and touch up some pieces that could use a little bit more concealer. So yeah, I'm just going to do the exact same thing on my other brow. Just continue to drag it across little by little and just get as close as you can to your brow shape. So what I like to use differently on the top of my brows is to use a concealer that's closer to my skin tone. So I'm going to be using the LA Pro Girl concealer in the shade Fawn. And I'm just going to be going along my brow shape or my brow line and getting as close as I can. Like I was doing at the bottom of my brow and then just dragging it across. I like to use a color that's closer to my skin tone at the top of my brow because having a brighter concealer at the top of your brow to me does not look natural and it can look very fake. So I want my brows to look as natural as possible, so I like to use a color that's pretty close to my skin tone. finishing up my second brow and then just drawing that line at the top of it. I like to almost connect two of the concealer lines at the top of my brow and really at the bottom of my brow as well to create like a unibrow look. Just so I know everything's even and straight, so like no eyebrow is higher than the other or lower than the other, just to ensure that they're even. So I'm just going to take my concealer and continue to draw it across and feather it out and blend it out. So the brush that I use to blend out all of my concealer is this small Morphe Dome brush. It's a really good brush to blend out my concealer. It's small enough to where it can get into little crevices, but not too big to where it's just like too big. So I'm using this brush to blend out all of my concealer. So I'm going to use the brush to pat along the concealer on the bottom and pat along the concealer at the top. So after we've blended everything out, I'm going to go ahead and split the unibrow. So I'm just dragging my concealer brush straight down from my forehead down the bridge of my nose. And then I'm going to blend out the beginning of each brow. So I'm just getting the brush and lightly tapping the beginning of each brow. So now I'm just going back and forth with my brush just to make sure everything is blended in and that there's no harsh concealer lines. And yeah, that concludes our brow tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed videos like this, and also be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date with new uploads. See you in the next one.